Welcome to All Stocks and happy Thanksgiving. I wanted to make this video as a post-reaction after everything that went down in the Clover Health stock. And I wanted to go a little bit more over the market psychology, talk about common mistakes that I've seen with investors. I've heard a lot of comments like, I bought Clover Health at $7 or X amount of price. Since it's at $5.62, I'll just hold until it comes back to $7 or whatever X amount of price they bought it, and then I'll sell at break even. And, that always mind boggles me because the analysis is actually based more on the stock price rather than the fundamentals. I have a quick example that a lot of people don't think about when they invest in a stock. When you buy a house, let's say after a week or two, the house price drops 50%. Are you going to freak out? Are you going to say, oh my God, this is a POS house. Once the house gets back up to that value, I'm leaving it, I'm selling it, we're going to move out of this area? Not really. You're going to continue living in your house and you're going to say, hey, in the long run, the house is going to appreciate like all the houses have in the history of the United States. What's interesting here is that there's some form of market psychology that I want to talk about, and I hope that after this video, you'll be aware of these studies and these psychological triggers that maybe you might think about this before making an actionable move that govern human behavior. Like, for example, on July 1981 to July 1983, there was a 10% increase in the price of eggs. Yes, eggs, which led to a 7.8% decrease in demand. The price went up by 10%, 7.8% said, I don't want eggs anymore. The demand went down. However, later on, when there was a 10% decrease in the price of eggs, this led to a 3.3% increase in demand. That tells you that when confronted with a loss, people see the loss as more negative than they see them saving money. Like, for example, the egg prices went up 10% and 7.8% of demand decreased. You could see that the percent increase in price was stable, but the demands were different. When the price went up, 7.8% were like, I'm not touching this. I don't want to lose money. But then when the price went down and people were going to save money on eggs, the demand was like, okay. It almost reminds me of the Clover Health stock. I'm going to be drawing some parallels with historical psychological actions that humans have made with market psychology and the Clover Health stock. So according to Kahneman and Tversky, famous psychologists, they found that losses and gains are valued differently. They had a study where they had some participants and they told the participants, you are all going to start with $50, but you have two options. The first option is you take 30 and you walk away. The second option is you gamble your 50, but you only have a 50% chance of keeping your 50 and losing your 50. So what were the results? 43% of participants decided to gamble, choosing the second choice, while 57% decided to keep the 30. Now, if you were to analyze the math here, and if you were to multiply the probabilities of option 2, it's better for you to pick the first choice, just walk away with 30, because the probability equates to around $25 if you multiply out the ratios. The problem that we have about teaching math is we disenfranchise it, disconnect it from reality, to where you're just solving these random textbook problems with no application to the real world. So when you get out there in the real world, you don't know how to use addition, subtraction, DCF calculators, calculating intrinsic value, using math to solve and answer a specific question. That's exactly how people view the stock market as. It's just a number, disenfranchised, detached from the reality of the business. That wasn't the point of the experiment. They brought in another set of participants. They started with $50 as well, but this time they changed the wording for option 1. Same experiment. Instead of saying you'll get to keep 30, they said you'll lose $20. The second option was the same. You gamble, you have a 50% chance at losing or walking away with a 50. The interesting part here is framing the first option as a loss entices to 61% of the participants to gamble, while only 39% chose to keep the 30. So they said you're going to lose 20, well 50 minus 20 is 30. It was the same thing as the first sets of experiments. Individuals focus in on the wording on the loss. And I believe we can draw some parallels with these studies. Like, for example, Clover Health decided to do a public share offering that caused dilution in the stock, and the stock price dropped. Many investors sold, as indicated by the small and medium outflow data that I've analyzed. I asked myself, looking at all the FUD in the market, it was blood on the streets for Clover Health, and I asked myself, I said, well, what changed? And usually when it's a complex equation like this with a bunch of SEC filings, 300-page documents, you kind of have to step out of the data for a little bit and say, let's assume I have an ice cream shop, and I have these shareholders, and I keep telling them I want to expand in 100 new counties. I want everyone to taste my ice cream because I think my ice cream is the best. So I decided to dilute my shares. I only have 100 anyway. I'm going to go ahead and dilute 50. So I have 150 in total. What changed? Did the quality of my ice cream go down? Did the number of customers I serviced go down? In reality, it should be more, considering now I have more cash to expand. What changed? So let's draw some parallels here. Did the lives under Clover Assistant change? In fact, they're increasing. The direct contracting lives under Clover Assistant is going to double by 2022. They're expanding into Alabama. Did they lose patience? The problem that I found is that when people buy a stock, they don't think about it as a business. You're buying a piece of the business. If I were to ask you right now, I'm trying to sell you a home, you would take your smart glasses and say, hold on for a sec. Let me see this. You would say, how much are the houses in a 5 to 10 mile radius? How much has the house nearest to you sold in the past 5 years? What is the percentage of how much the house appreciated? Do you live next to a good school, a church? If you want to go a little deeper, are S&P 500 companies near your location? Like, for example, Intel is investing $20 billion in Arizona. Well, hey, that might actually help the Arizona economy. Where are they going to invest? Maybe I want to buy property in that area. The problem is when you buy a stock, these smart glasses go out of the window. No one analyzes companies. They don't know how. They don't even know where to start. And they start getting into speculation. Again, it's a number detached from the fundamentals of the business. Like, for example, I just made a SoFi video, an intrinsic value calculation, and I said, hey, SoFi is hovering around $18.40 based off of the numbers post being public. And I got a lot of people saying, it's going to go to 50. You're wrong. I got a lot of name calling. Someone commented, and it was really funny. And he said that this guy thinks Clover Health is going to go to $40-ish, and he thinks SoFi should be hovering around $18.40. And it shows me that this person sees this number from SoFi detached from the fundamentals of the business. SoFi has a market cap of around $15 billion. Clover Health has a market cap of around $2.5 billion. For Clover Health to get to that $30, $40 region, it's going to be around a $15 to $20 billion market cap. When in reality, if SoFi wants to get to that market cap, it's going to be a much higher market cap. You see, the point is people detach the stock price from the fundamentals of the business. There is a pro and con to this. The con is that people are going to lose their money. The rich get richer and the poor get poorer. Parcelation between the haves and have-nots of our society is always going to become greater. Retail just can't win, which is the main reason why I created this YouTube channel, to educate, stimulate, and inspire the next generation to take and conquer their financial independence. The pro, unfortunately, is that there are going to be people out there, always will be, that are going to sell shares at around the $5 region that we saw. And we could take advantage of that. We can buy their shares. They did us a solid. They bought high, and they're like, hey, they'll sell it to me low. It's like buying this iPad behind me or these AirPod Maxes for $600, $500. And I'm like, hey, man, I'll sell it to you for $100. Whatever, man. Just take it, man. You see how the market psychology, it just doesn't make sense. You wouldn't do that for AirPods. You wouldn't do that for your house because you know how to value it. But there's a big problem. There's a barrier of entry when it comes to evaluating stocks. And they love that. They being Wall Street. One thing about the rich dad, poor dad, and I hate this, but he really says it to wake people up. There will always be poor among us. But unfortunately, that's how Wall Street operates. One last point I want to mention here is because I got a lot of comments about this. I don't want to hold for 5 years. I'm not like those hedgies that can hold for 5 years. My short answer is, then the stock market may not be for you. But just think about this for one quick moment. When you buy a home, let's say you bought a home for $400,000, and within a year, the home price dropped to $250,000. Are you going to say, this is a POS home? I hate this home. I want to get the heck out of this home. Terrible investment. Terrible. It's your home. You're going to hold on to it because you know in the long run, the prices are going to go back up. Unless things change, like there's something wrong with the water system, like Flint and all these other issues that we had in the United States. But intrinsically, nothing would change. You see, Warren Buffett made this great analogy. He said, when you buy a stock, I like to think of it as buying a farm. You don't check on the farm every single day to see if your plants grew. You check maybe every 3 months, every quarter, every earnings to keep up on the business, to see what's going on. You give it time, you give it sunlight, you give it water. But the problem is when it comes to the stock market, all this logical thinking goes out of the door. And I hate to say this, a long time ago when Whole Foods, before Amazon bought Whole Foods got in trouble with the SEC because they went on other grocery stores' stock forms and depressed the stock price so they can purchase the business. I assume that these practices are still ongoing, in fact, if not more viral. Essentially, people are most likely getting paid to spam chat groups like Webull, Yahoo Finance, StockTwits, and all the other platforms, and they make money for creating FUD. They make money for people to sell. It's terrible. That's the game of Wall Street. If there's one thing that you can take from this video, is that don't invest in a narrative. Invest in data. Invest in hard numbers, data, results, not in a story. If you made it this far, consider liking, subscribing, and turning on all notifications. It is my highest, truest privilege to be able to provide you this information, and I hope you and your family and your loved ones have a wonderful Thanksgiving. God bless you.